Well, welcome to our Thursday Lunch and Learn for leaders and those who want to be. I'm excited for our episode today. I have my good friend Jonathan King, who's going to be joining us and speaking to us today. I was sharing with Irene, Jonathan and I met when we lived in Northern Arizona. I got a LinkedIn message from him one day and he said, "Hey, are you ever looking for a part-time job?" And I said, "Well, what is that all about?" And he said, "Well, I'm looking for a hospice chaplain." And that's how I got into hospice as an occupation. And Jonathan and I have stayed friends. We very much are in the same space and provide a lot of the same services. Jonathan is much more advanced than I am, and I am honored to be his friend. So welcome, Jonathan.
Thank you. It's good to be here with all of you. Looking forward to getting to know you.
Thanks. So Jonathan, why don't you share a little bit about your background and how it is that you've come to be doing what you do?
Okay. So I started off in my career as a pastor. And I was a pastor for 16 years in large and mid-sized churches, and started to feel that it was time that I started preparing myself to shift. And I've always loved leadership, and there's that point that I said, I want to know more about leadership than just what the most popular leadership book can tell me. I want to get into the nuts and bolts. So I sought out my master's in leadership from Grand Canyon University, and enjoyed being able to focus on study. And then right after that, I left the church that I was involved in. We moved back to Arizona. Ended up landing in teaching for Northern Arizona University here in our area, starting my own leadership coaching business, and ended up in hospice, and starting as chaplain and bereavement coordinator, and then ended up becoming social services director. That's when I recruited Jill to help me out, because we needed a chaplain in her side of the mountain. So we have a big mountain that separates our county. And then I became the for the hospice, the director of business development, and then director of operations. And now I've taken my coaching practice to full time. So I'm doing just 100% self-employed leadership coaching and consulting, working with a lot of, usually I'm working with the executive directors. And then once I build some trust with them, and then I'll work with their leadership teams to help them become more cohesive, and to really figure out what it is that comes next. So that's me in the nutshell.
Thanks for sharing. If you, as Jonathan's speaking, you'll be like, "Oh, him and Jill, they say a lot of those same words like cohesive, communication, starting with the top leader, working and spreading all of that information out to the rest of the team to bring them together." So
Yep.
Jonathan, here's the question that will launch our conversation for the rest of our time together. And that is this: what is one obstacle that you overcame as a leader? Why was it an obstacle, and how did you overcome it?
Okay. So as I was thinking about this question, obviously as leaders, there's a lot of different things that we have to learn to overcome. For me, I'm so committed to individual development for each of my team members that I had to learn how to deal with that tension when the person I'm trying to develop is hurting the team. And when is it that you let that person go so that you can then protect the team and continue with the team development? And so I had to learn that, number one, that even though it feels like a conflict, there's really not. It's still, the team has to be successful over any one individual on the team. And so some of the key things that I had to learn was, one, not to make promises to people early on in their development, that I'd be there, that I'd take them through this no matter what. I can tend to be a visionary, and so sometimes my vision is greater for them than they have it for themselves. So I had to learn not to put honestly put more into it than they were willing to put into it. That's some wise counsel that was given to me by a counselor who was teaching me a little bit about counseling people, and that statement, the day that he gave it to me, I realized there's a lot of people I was probably putting more into than they were willing to put into themselves on the issues that I was trying to help them address. Um, and then um, and then just ultimately to prioritize the success of the team, and to seek out other people to help give me um, input on when has it been enough. And so in the last years, I've really had to make those hard calls. Uh, and and once I was able to feel like I've addressed issues quickly and put the opportunities out there for people to grow, and if they don't respond to those opportunities, to feel like I've done everything I can, and now it's time to go ahead and let them go. But if I haven't done that, then my team languishes, I'm languishing, the person who's struggling on the team is languishing, and it just ruins everyone's momentum. So I think that's been from day one of being a leader to, just all the way through my 30 years of leadership, that continues to be the main thing that will crop its head up, and I have to remind myself of those core lessons again.
Yeah. I'm sure you've heard the saying about hire slow, fire fast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And because of that, I've become really good at hiring,
Okay.
and hiring for the culture.
Yeah.
So that's why when you and I first met, Jill, that um, you and I were speaking each other's languages, and everything from caring about people, and also about leadership, and about healthy organizations, and you coming from a coaching background as well, that is, you're an easy hire. So
I still remember that interview where it was, there was a few of us, and I felt a little bad because some of you and I, we started kind of geeking out on like, the disc profile and personalities and some leadership stuff. And they're like, yeah, we're just along for the ride here in this conversation.
yeah.
So when you were back and learning this, and when you were kind of, what was it like? What did you see in yourself and in your team that made you even think there might be a problem with how I'm leading through this, and I need to address this?
um I think it was realizing how much time and effort I was putting into individuals, and and just, and I didn't have team members coming and complaining to me about individuals. It was really me continuing to have the same conversations over and over again, and and giving another option for their growth, or another option for them to find a different role, and realizing that those were all things I was doing, and yet the opportunities um, weren't being taken advantage of. And honestly, in a lot of these lessons were learned with volunteers as a pastor.
Sure.
So when I was in my first ministry, I was overseeing like 25 different ministries representing over 100 people, and um and they, all of a sudden I found out that, yeah, there's times you have to fire volunteers, which in my background was like, oh, you never fire a volunteer. But no, when you're leading a team, you fire volunteers, and you have hard discussions. And so going from that paradigm shift of that even though I'm committed to someone's development, sometimes a part of their development is having real strong expectations to be able to say, okay, part of developing is you're not welcome to be a part of this team if you're not willing to meet these basic expectations. And that's okay. That's okay to draw that line for someone, because that too is a part of their development. And it's not loving to continue to let them do it. So then to take that into professional teams where you have to have the exact same issue in the conversation with people whose livelihood is on the line,
Sure.
you know, just ups the ante to to the consequences of their success or failure on your team.
Yeah.
Did I answer that question?
Yeah. I was thinking as you're talking, you know, that had to have been a challenging decision to come to, because again, I know you and I share the same mindset of, as leaders, we want to believe the best in people. We want to believe that everybody's coachable, and yet recognizing that although everybody is coachable, that doesn't mean that they're coachable, because
Right,
coachable means that they're taking action on the things that we're talking to them about.
right. And I think and I've heard this as a common issue with a lot of my clients, is there's people you genuinely care about.
Yeah.
You genuinely like them as a person, and yet they, and I just had this conversation yesterday with one of my clients, that I had to point out to her that in the months I've been working with her and known her, she always brings up the same team member,
Mm,
and she didn't even realize
wow.
how much she was bringing her up.
Yeah.
And they've worked together for 10 years.
Oof.
And now over the last year, she's been promoted to a new regional position. And so now her influence is just multiplied.
Right.
And she gets the job done, but it comes with tons of drama,
Oof.
and it comes with all kinds of passive aggressive behavior and broadcasting when she's upset, and all these different things that I just, and just talking through it with her, it's like, listen, so I have to tell you that, that her name comes up every single time we're having a session, and I know your team, and I know your team brings her up,
Mm,
consistently
yeah.
over the years I've known her team. And now, you know, my question to her is what are you afraid of in dealing with this person? And ultimately she wasn't confident about what it was, but I think what she landed on was really um that she was worried about that relationship, that
Yeah.
10 years invested, and she's worried about the implications when you have a high performer potentially throw up their hands and walk out in a storm. You just lost that high performer. But divas come with a cost.
I was going
So
to say high performers, she may be a high performer, but it also came with great costs and great weight on that performance.
yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And then I was thinking too, sometimes people aren't able to do the job, aren't able or willing to step up to the plate. But what do you do when they still fit really well with the culture? I mean, similar to what your client's experiencing, this is somebody that she considers a friend. So you have somebody who everybody likes as a person, but they're slacking, and the team is frustrated or the leader's frustrated because the job isn't being done. What do you do with that? Because
Well,
as much as we emphasize culture and culture fits, if you have somebody that's a culture fit, but they're not performing.
right. And those are the heartbreakers. Those are the people we hire with full commitment to their development, and we think that they can make it, and then their productivity, their skill set, their sometimes they've overpromised what they're capable of doing or learning just isn't there. Um, and so that's where I think all of our HR tools uh, are the best tools to come back to,
Yeah.
where it's a difference of culture, competency, character is usually how I outline it for my clients, and that I believe you should be able to have both all three of those lining up with your organization, with your team. But if the competency isn't there, then it's just unfair
Yeah.
to the rest of the team. It's your business model rarely can support it, and you have to be able to address the areas of growth, make sure that you have done due diligence and training. Sometimes where when I dig into it, I find out no one's actually trained this person,
Wow.
and that's a different issue. That's on leadership.
Right.
So, but if you can check that box off, they say, no, I've given consistent training. We've tried different ways to address the training. If it's just training styles or there's just a miss of how someone needs to learn, that's potentially reasonable. But other than that, document that you've given the training, document that you've addressed the issues, and be just really upfront with the person from day one. If you can't get to this level, if you can't hit this metric, then we're not going to be able to keep you. As much as we love you, we care about you, we'll do everything we can to make you successful, but this is the job. And
Yeah.
we'll write a great letter of reference for you. We'll try to introduce you to other people, but this is the job.
Yeah. Yeah. So do you have a story of a time where you were able to say, oh, I've learned this lesson already. I'm not going to repeat this mistake, and how that worked out for you?
Yeah. Yeah. When I uh, took on a new leadership role and I inherited an existing team, uh, I immediately in our team interactions, I saw one person who was really struggling with open, um, just uh, being able to receive feedback and to be able to collaborate. They became very defensive. They would shut down the team's communication. And because I'm all about collaboration, I immediately, after watching it for a few weeks, consistently and seeing, okay, this is a pattern. I pulled her aside. I gave her direct feedback, said, this is exactly what you're doing. I believe in you. I believe in your input. However, you have to be able to receive, hard questions from other people and dig into it, because we're all about the same solution. Let's get to this solution. And if you are reacting this way, then everyone else will stop asking you hard questions.
Mm.
And then our team doesn't, that we won't get successful. Um, so that was just that. It's like, I see it, don't wait. I'm confident about what I'm seeing. Now I have to address it. And then continuing to address it. And um, and unfortunately, because I was addressing it, and because there's some other leadership changes, um, uh, she just all of the things that she struggled with just came out, you know. And so rather than her taking the opportunity to work on those issues, her unhealthy coping devices all blew up, and so we just had to say really clearly, here's the expectations. You're not meeting the expectations. Here's the plan for you to meet the expectations. And then she resigned on her own. But unfortunately, as she resigned, she then included the rest of the team. And so when you're dealing with a team of 25, 30 people, it's small enough still to where you still one personality can can knock you off the rails.
Yeah.
You know, one person can be incredibly influential. And so she, you know, played the victim, created the drama, and talked to a lot of different people. Obviously, myself and others, we were all the bad guys. And 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 that was the next leadership challenge of, okay, do I hope that this blows over, or do I address it? And so I addressed it very uh, uh, just very quickly. I addressed it within our team, our all staff trainings. I it just so happened that the all staff training already scheduled 2 months ahead, you know, 2 or 3 months in advance, was on our value of being a no drama team.
Oh.
And
You could say, this is why.
right. And so now we had all this drama and all this stuff going, no one was talking openly about it. Before doing the training, I met directly with the people who I knew she was pulling in to the drama, reminded them what the expectations were, um, gave them the opportunity to voice any concerns. And I just told them, I said, I'm going to be doing this training. We're going to be addressing this issue. And, we can't address, because of HR and everything, we can't address this specifically. But as I'm talking, I don't want you to feel like I'm talking about you without talking to you.
Wow.
So
Good.
so I'm telling you up front, we're talking about this. I know that you've been engaged in this, that this position you put in. I'm not telling you it's your fault. I'm just telling you this is the reality. Now, if this is our value, that we're not going to create drama, and we're going to deal with issues up front. I'm being upfront with you. This is how we need to go forward. If you have any questions, you ask them now. I can't answer anything directly about this, but I'm glad to answer anything else. And that, seemed like it took up, 3 weeks of my time, when I really needed to be focused on business development, and training. But within that 3 weeks, I got us all back on track.
Yeah.
And and those are those key moments, I think, as leaders, that exhaust us. And for me, at the end, I take a lot of pride in that. Oh no, I led. My younger self, who hates conflict, would have said, no, everyone could be reasonable and adults, and this will smooth over, and this will be okay. And I would have let it get out of control.
Mm.
But my wiser, mature self, that to be able to say, no, I've learned my lessons. I have to address this quickly.
Yeah.
I have to be upfront about it. I need to be authentic about it. And we need to get back on track, because everyone's enjoyment, all the culture we created was on the line.
Yeah.
Um, our values were on the line. And those are the greatest learning opportunities for a team. And that's when they're actually asking to themselves, do you really mean what you say or not?
Yeah.
And for me, being the one who had been saying this is who we are for all these years, and then to have it challenged, if I didn't say anything, the lesson would have been, no, you really don't believe in it.
Yeah. That's
You're just
good.
like you're just like every other business.
Mm. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Jonathan, thank you so much for being on the show today and being with us and talking to this. It's such an incredibly valuable lesson. We're going to take the recording, put it out on YouTube, and it'll get sent out to people as well. And where can people find you if they want to have a deeper discussion with you about leadership?
Well, if they go to my webpage, which is signatureleadership.biz, they can see a little bit more of my bio and see kind of some of the services and processes I have out there. The best way is just to email me, which is jking@signatureleadership.biz, and I'm glad to start a conversation and see what your needs are, and I'll I will be really honest with you if you're outside of my scope or not my specialty, um, but I'd love to have the conversation.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks again. And thanks everybody for being here. Just want to remind you, we meet every Thursday at noon on Zoom. You're more than welcome to invite anybody that you know who wants to grow in their leadership. Also wanted to make sure to encourage you to go to linkconsulting.info. At the top of the page, you're going to see a tab that says Confident Leader. And that is my ebook that I wrote. It's very short, and but it's a jumping off point for people to improve and become confident leaders of committed teams that are providing stellar service, which that's what I'm all about. And everybody have a wonderful afternoon. See you next week.
Thanks, Joe.
Bye.